Good day. How's it going? This is Brian Nash from How We Got Here Genealogy. So I'm trying something a little different. I almost say that every time I start a live cast. But today I'm doing a little different. I'm going to be talking. I actually put a question form in the description of this video. You can use that. And I'm actually going to keep this up on this video and future videos between them. I'm looking at when the best time is to do these live streams. Um, YouTube suggested that Saturday a tool in YouTube suggested that Saturday at 4 p.m. is probably my best time. So I'm going to try that for the next couple of weeks if I can, around 4-ish, 4:15. Let me know in the comments if that works for you. So whether you're watching this video live or afterwards, this is a chance for me to answer some of your questions. Um, Now, I usually, when I do these videos, I'm usually doing something else specifically there, and I might be sharing it because I want to make these useful for people that are watching afterwards. But I definitely want to make sure I'm answering your questions because I know I get questions and comments. So today, if I don't have any questions in the forum, I might look at a few of the specific questions in comments. Um, One of the things about the form is there is a section that asks you if it's a specific question to your family tree. Um, and if it is, that's great. I just ask if you have a shareable link to a public version of the tree, whether it's on Ancestry or Wikitree or Family Search. That way I can actually take a look at it and see what you're working on and see where you're at. It'll make a little sense. I will not. I will try not to show anything that's there to that would compromise any living people. So what I always suggest is in Wikitree it's an automatic setting that on the public version of your tree, anybody that is not marked off as deceased. Um, I don't know if there's a time frame if it's after their birth, like so, because I know there's some older ones people don't have as deceased, but their site is public, depending on the generations. So yeah, anything that's anybody that's currently living usually will just show up as private. Um, so let's get going, and um, I want to welcome you all here, and I hope we have a good time today. I'm looking for your questions and your answers. I realized a couple things. I got to set up just one thing is missing on my own setup, so I can actually hear you because uh, I had been using a headset to do that for something else. So that's just going to take me one quick second. There we go. Now let's make sure this is set to speakers. Okay, so that is okay. So I'm all ready now. So let's get rolling. Sorry about that delay. Um, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if there was any questions in the form. If there have been none, when I checked already just a little bit before, but I will double check now to see if there's any questions that are in there. So, and then I'll have to chase my stupid cat out of here because my cat's a pain in the butt, as cats tend to be. Um, I'm a dog person, in case you didn't realize that. So I'm not seeing any questions asked right now. But like I said, I'm going to keep that open because it's my first time doing it. I'm going to try to keep that open between live streams, and when I'm done this live stream today, I'll be scheduling the one immediately for next week. Okay. So again, I want to thank everybody who takes time to leave comments on videos and has taken the time to join me on the live stream today. I do appreciate it. And so if you have a question, you drop it in the comments, or you can use that form. I'll be checking the form every so often. In the meantime, I'm just going to look at a few of comments that I have recently got. And if they're not about a specific uh, family that I can find, I will try to open that, try to answer it. So let's just check here. So how the easy way for me is to actually go into my my YouTube studio tool. If anybody who has YouTube channel has a YouTube studio, and then I can really sort my my questions there. And oh yeah, don't forget check on my latest video, Stories in the Archives, Unearthing Your Canadian Family History. In that, I have a link to the Canadian Genealogy Resources Guide. It's a work in progress. I'm going to be continuing to add it, and I'll be linking that in future videos as well. So a couple things happened this past week. I hit the milestone of 3,000 subscribers. I don't necessarily do this. I'm not doing this just to generate subscribers. I really enjoy doing this, talking about genealogy and sharing my knowledge, what little it might seem sometimes with you, and my love for history, and my love for people understanding their family history. One of the things that I feel is really important is that as people investigate and learn to understand their own family history, um, it hopefully opens their eyes to seeking general history, and they become interested in that. So there we go. Okay, so today I didn't really have any specific plans of anything to work on. So I'm going to just see how this goes, and I'm going to work on my own family history. Um, so give me 1 second, and I'm bringing up a couple things here. Hopefully, I'll play a little bit of background noise. Noise, I say, music to so at least if I'm busy and I'm not talking away, you'll you'll be able to you know, be entertained a little. So and I don't know if that's interesting music to people or not. I'm just trying to choose things that will not get myself have an copyright strike. So I don't know if this interests a lot of people. It does interest me. There we go. Just trying to find something that works. There we go. That looks good. Okay, so if you do have any questions, please let me know. Like I said, I'm going to work through some of the questions that are there in from my comments, and see if I can pull anything in the last week or two. I had a few questions, but specific questions about specific family. I don't want to answer that without the person's consent. Ask a question using the form, or you can give them comments. I know there are people watching. I see you out there. This tells me there is. Okay. Working on a few things for upcoming videos. Actually, I'm looking at doing another release of a Canadian Prime Minister video in my series on the genealogy and Canadian Prime Ministers. I've done 2 so far. Yeah, kind of slow on that. It's something I thought would be very regular, but something takes a little longer time. If there's a specific person you'd like to see, I'm probably going to look at. I'm thinking right now of either doing Lester Pearson, who was only alive for my first 2 years of my life, but is a prime minister. I think is a very interesting tenure as prime minister, and he, he's quite interesting. He's only Canadian prime minister to win the Nobel Peace Prize, which he won before he was prime minister. One of the reasons he was elected leader of the Liberal Party after Hussein Raw, because of his work in the Hussein Raw cabinet as the Minister for External Affairs, and basically he created the idea of the United Nations Peacekeeper, which is what he won his Peace Prize for. Personal connection is my father's brother. Actually was in the military as well as my father. I believe this is correct. This is what I had been told, is that he, during his funeral, he carried his medals. Lester was in World War II, and he's actually one of the prime ministers I used to really love reading biographies. He has a really interesting life. So I'm looking at either doing Lester or doing Wilfrid Laurier. So far, the 2 prime ministers I've done has been conservatives. I started with John A. Macdonald because he is the first Canadian prime minister, and I did Brian Mulroney just shortly after he passed away. When I had my information gathered, I just wanted to. It was a good time to do it. His funeral was actually earlier this afternoon. I was watching that cold and blustery day, and Montreal. It hadn't gotten that way here yet, so it's just starting to get around Prince Edward Island. Okay, so I might do a little work on getting my facts together for those two prime ministers and have their family trees. There's a little more detail I want to look at because there's a few records and other things I'd like to include in the video. Wilfrid Laurier, what he's interesting is he's the first French prime minister, not the first prime minister from Quebec, but the first French prime minister. He was ahead of his times in some of his ways, and in relation to Mulroney, Wilfrid Laurier actually had the idea of free trade with the United States back in the early 1900s when he was prime minister. Wilfrid Laurier is a classical liberal, what we tend to probably call a libertarian, more of a libertarian now. Classic liberalism. Yeah, he's just a very, very interesting person. I'm kind of torn which one to choose. I think I might do Wilfrid Laurier. Just one second here. Because along with John A. McDonald, I have for Wilfrid Laurier action figure, part of a Canadian history set of action figures. They unfortunately only have 3. The last time I checked, they had him, John A. McDonald, and they have Isaac Brock. The other option too is actually I was looking at possibly doing the prime minister before to Wilfrid Laurier or the prime minister after, just because they are both from Nova Scotia. Okay. So let's see. An actually interesting tidbit about the prime minister before Wilfrid Laurier, Sir Charles Tupper. His father was a Baptist minister, and he was actually just down the next community over from where I live, which is actually the closest community with a church. There's in the actual community, one of the closest ones. It is his father was actually the first minister that they had at that Baptist church. That Baptist church, the cemetery is also filled with a lot of loyalists who came to Prince Edward Island. In fact, there's 2 graveyards in that community, and both of them are Catholic loyalist graves. Again, something nice and close to home, so I might be. I did one video at that graveyard, their graveyards once, because I was doing a video to find a grave, and I was searching for a specific grave that somebody had been looking to find a grave. So, anyways. Okay. And my goal actually is, once I have all these prime ministers, their family trees done, is to actually start seeing if there's any connection between them and what it is. Actually, I might just show that on. Bring up that. I do have a neat tool that I really like. So I'm going to share that right now. Bring that up on Wikitree, and I'm going to to the connection finder. Where's the best place to easily get to the connection finder? One second. There we go. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to share this now, and let's take a quick peek into our prime ministers and see if any of them have any actual connections. So let me bring this up. And let me put myself down here, maybe. Down there. There, that's a little better. Okay, so we're going to start with John A. Macdonald, and this is just an interesting little thing to go through. I'm going to see what connections he has, according to Wikitree, with other Canadian prime ministers that they have listed. So if I go here, I can bring up his ID, and on the news, I think I have an easy way to get that. There we go. I'm going to copy his ID, and I'm going to go over to my connection finder. I'm going to put him as my main one. So we're going to go and check his connection with the second Prime Minister of Canada. We're going to check to see if he's any connection or any relation. I'm thinking for the most part we won't find too many that are related, but you never know. I'm thinking especially in these early ones. So his IDs. So they're 17 degrees from each other. Now let's see if we can get a connection through a bonanza. No, nothing. We'll find the shortest. There we go. So how these connection finders works is it takes somebody and it basically is, it's sort of the principle of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's taking your any connections you might have. So how it works is it goes to his son, and then his son's wife, and then it goes through her family, and then it goes to so this William Tempe, and it goes to his father, and then her husband, Christopher Haynes, and it goes through his family, and then his wife, Agnes McAlpine. So this is, you see, that's when it changes to marriage, it changes color, and again, sort of to the connection. So let's check the next Prime Minister. We have John Abbott. So John Abbott was born in St. Andrews in Lower Canada, which is, for you people who are not as familiar with Canadian history, it was later then called Canada East, and then it was later called Quebec. It's what we now call the province of Quebec, or at least at that time it was actually not the whole province of what we call Quebec now, but the lower, more populated area around the St. Lawrence. I find it interesting that Alexander Mackenzie was the fourth Mackenzie that's listed in here. So John is 11 degrees from John Abbott. And again, it goes through the connections. I'm not going to go through these again. I'm just going to see if they have a common ancestor. Sometimes a common ancestor can be there. So we're going to go from John Abbott to John Thompson. John Thompson was the first Canadian Prime Minister from Nova Scotia. Actually, was originally what happened. John A. Macdonald was Prime Minister. He lost because of the Pacific Railway scandal. People got over it. He then defeated Alexander Mackenzie and was there for a number of years, 13 more years, I think. And then he died while in office, and then there was a succession of prime ministers that succeeded each other. So it was originally John Thompson was the person that they had sort of wanted to succeed John A. Macdonald, but at the time he did not accept it. He succeeded John Abbott, and he wound up. John Abbott was there for over a year. So John Thompson wound up being Prime Minister for 2 years. What happened was he actually died in Windsor Castle, and he was over doing Canadian business. And I think, if I'm correct, I think he's actually buried in London. The only Canadian Prime Minister might be there. So, connections. So he's 11 degrees. We haven't found anybody connected through more closer than 11 degrees. Nobody through a common ancestor yet, which is really interesting because apparently almost every president in the United States, except for, I want to say it might be Lyndon Johnson, is related to each other through a common ancestor somewhere. It also could just be all the connections that we have on here on Wikitree. So we're going to go to Mackenzie Bowell. He was from Ontario as well. So far we had John McDonald from Ontario, Alexander Mackenzie from Ontario, John Abbott from Quebec, John Thompson from Nova Scotia, and Mackenzie Bowell from Ontario. The Prime Ministers in the early start were heavy on the Ontario. So He's 13 degrees, and they have a common ancestor. I might only get to go through John A. Macdonald today and all the other prime ministers. So let's go to the next one. Sir Charles Tupper. This is the second prime minister of Nova Scotia. He was premier of Nova Scotia as well. I think both prior to and shortly after Confederation. He's a really interesting prime minister as well. He had a very short term because Mackenzie Val died, and there was only a short amount of time left on the term of Parliament, which is how prime ministers are elected. There's a parliamentary term on the prime minister. So there has to be elections, House Commons. Every 4 years, you can stretch it out to 5, but by like sometimes some more significant crisis. But they were nearing that in the 4 years. John A. Macdonald had got elected and died shortly after, so it was almost a full 4 years. So they were nearing that end of the term where they had to have an election. Unfortunately, for Charles Tupper, he did not win. Fortunately for Sir Wilfrid Laurier, and he became the second Liberal Prime Minister of Canada and the first French Prime Minister. So Charles is 15 degrees. I doubt they have an actual common ancestor. We'll see. And the reason why the common ancestor could be actually a longer one. There's also other generational paths that is interesting. So it shows different ways of getting information. So John A. Macdonald, we're going to go through and maybe see if all the prime ministers are connected to him. I doubt there'll be a chance to go much farther. I want to keep this short if I have no questions. This is something I'm going to be doing every Friday, every Saturday. The next little bit, partially, it works out to be a good time now for me. 4 o'clock on a Saturday, and maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the prime minister as the closest connection. That's how this time the next prime minister. So far, 11's the closest. So let's do. Let's do Wilfrid Laurier. His ID and find the connection. So he's 15 degrees. He's not any closer. Well, let's see. Do they have a common ancestor? I doubt it, since one is French and one is not. So we'll go to the next prime minister. Sir Robert Laird-Born. He was the next prime minister. He was a prime minister throughout World War II. He was a conservative prime minister, and he served from 1911 to 1921. He died in office as well. He's from Nova Scotia, Grand Prairie, Nova Scotia, very famous area, and Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote about it. It was an Acadian community originally. It is also very close to Wolfville, a major university. Really nice little place. I'm going to see if there's any connection there. So 12 degrees. Only goes through 3 branches. Okay. So let's just see if we have any connection through a common ancestor. None. Okay. So that's how I'll decide the tie, I guess, is there is one. Is go through to how many different branches. The branches, by that it means how many times it has to basically change color. It doesn't change the color to another. So Arthur Main, really interesting. He was short-lived in the 1920s. He was elected prime minister. He was there for 5 years. And then he was defeated by William Lyon Mackenzie King. And then he was, and he beat, then William Lyon Mackenzie resigned because he was defeated in the House. Arthur Main and the Conservatives formed a minority government, but were quickly defeated, and Canada went back to election. This actually had a bit of an early constitutional crisis for Canada. This was a disagreement on Mackenzie King when he lost his vote of non-confidence if he could just call the election right away. But it's the Governor General in Canada who calls elections on the advice of the Prime Minister. He does not have to heed that advice. And because it had been a short time before he was elected, he did give the option for the opposition leader to try to form a coalition or form government and see if the Governor General at the time was Governor General Byng. So I've always referred to it, and other historians refer to it as the King Byng thing. If you tell people you're talking about the King Byng thing in Canadian history, they'll know what you mean generally. Okay, so let's go. So we're searching him. Let's get his ID up. Did I do Maine yet? No, I didn't do Maine, so let's do him. What is he talking about? Arthur Main, King Byng thing, and the King. I got sort of distracted there. So he's 17 degrees and 5 branches. So he's definitely not the winner. We've seen quite a few that were close. The interesting thing is he actually wound up serving again as leader of conservatives in the 1940s, early 1940s, during the early part of World War II. And let's see if there's any common ancestor. So there's no common ancestor there. So let's go to our next Prime Minister, William Lyon Mackenzie King. William Lyon Mackenzie King, he actually has a really interesting family line. Canadian history, probably familiar with, or they might be familiar. I don't know what they teach in school anymore. And I don't know, maybe it was because I was in Ontario when I was in junior high, but his second great grandfather, maybe possibly third, might even just be his great grandfather. I have to double check. William Mackenzie was a little bit of a rebellion against the government in the 1830s. And he was one of the leaders of it. So when we look at John A. and Mackenzie King, they are 18 degrees, again, far off. Do they have a common ancestor? No. I would say not. I'm just wondering if it goes to... No. Okay. So we're going to look at the next one is R.B. Bennett. R.B. Bennett served in the 1930s in between terms of William Lyon Mackenzie King. He was the first Canadian Prime Minister from New Brunswick, I think. the date he's only from the language. He was a banker, and he led Canada through the first part of the Great Depression. He's 16 degrees, and let's see if there's any relationship on my ancestor. We have none. Common descendant. Okay. Check descendants on other ones. Louis St. Laurent. Now, he was the second French Canadian Prime Minister. He succeeded William Mackenzie King as leader of the Liberal Party. He was in William Mackenzie King's cabinet during World War II, and he would lead a succession of prime ministers. He succeeded William Mackenzie King. He had a fairly long term as prime minister from 1948 to 1957, and it's not finding any connection between them. So that would be the longest connection. So interesting. The first one that was not able to make the connection. Now, after Louis St. Laurent came John Diefenbaker, or Dief the Chief, as he was fondly known. He's the first Diefenbaker in Weektree. So let's just check him. He's got no connection to John A. Macdonald either. Oops, a wrong spot. Got no connection to Louis St. Laurent. He does have a connection through John Diefenbaker's 16. 5 branches. Let's see if there's anything through a common ancestor. I was new. But let's see. Okay, so after John Diefenbaker, he had a majority government, and interesting thing about him is he actually was elected to a very big majority, and a not so big majority, and he basically talked into running another election. He thought he could win, so when he didn't have to call the election, he won the that was only the second majority, and it was after his majority, then he wound up getting minority government, getting defeated, and there was a succession of minority governments at that point. So we're going to look up. We did Diefenbaker, so let's look up again. He was defeated by Liberals under Lester Pearson. Lester Pearson, very interesting person. He was the ambassador commissioner to. I worked at the embassy, actually, pastor commissioner. I was part of the Canadian Commission in England during World War II. One of my favorite stories is during World War II in London, of course, they had bomb shelters because they had fear of air raids from the German. That was very true, and much of the state of London was devastated. But they also had, so a lot of these government buildings had makeshift shelters of their own. Down in Canada House, in the basement, they had a makeshift shelter. And the way it worked is if there was an air raid or an air raid drill, after everything was all clear, there was they would let you know, so you could then know it was clear to come out. So he writes in his biography about this, or in a biography I read, so I don't know if he wrote it or somebody, it was recorded from him speaking about it, that during one time there was apparently a air raid drill, and nobody bothered to tell. It was just a drill. So they were in there a little longer than they needed to be. So let's look. And again, within World War I, the sort of a long time post-war work with the Department of External Affairs in various parts of Ottawa, and then their embassies probably are, in a way, one of the Canadian prime ministers that had definitely had the most experience before being prime minister in international affairs. Louis St. Laurent was the Minister of External Affairs under Wilfrid Laurier, and he actually brought Lester from the department shortly, I think it was after World War II, and he became the Deputy Minister of External Affairs, and then under Louis St. Laurent's cabinet, in his cabinet, he was the Minister of External Affairs. Deputy Minister is, sorry, not the Deputy Minister, what's it, the Deputy Minister is a bureaucratic role, so he was not elected. He is 17 degrees. Do they have a common connection through the common ancestor? No, not surprising, just because of Lester's background. He's one of the Canadian English prime ministers that doesn't have a strong Scottish background. Well, there's a few other afterwards English ones. He's from Ontario as well. Interesting story, when he did become a minister in Louis St. Laurent's government, he had called his mother, who was still alive, and was telling her that she was a minister. They were very strong Methodists, and she had hope for her son at this point, that he had changed careers and found God, but it was a different kind of minister. Okay, so we're almost there. We're up to Pierre Trudeau. Our current Prime Minister's father, so this is one we would find a connection for doing there. So he's 19 degrees from John A. MacDonald. Do they have a common ancestor? Just because Pierre's background is so it's not as likely. Succeeding Pierre Trudeau was Kilcar, who, after in 1979, he was it 1978? He was the Canadian Prime Minister. He had a minority government, and Isaac was defeated in 19. I think it was in 79. He was elected in the spring. Defeated in December around Christmas time, and I remember because I was in Cape Breton when that happened, and it was the first time I was in Cape Breton for Christmas in a number of years. My father was on horses. We moved to Ontario, and all the time when we were on Ontario, originally we were in Borden, which is sort of central Ontario. We hadn't visited Cape Breton, which is the first time in my life. I hadn't been there probably times a year. So in 1979, we had moved to Ottawa the fall, 29 and so we flew quite early. It was almost the whole month of December, if I'm correct, we spent there. And that's all when this was defeated. I had really an interest in politics already by then, so it was to me. So let's take a look here. So he's 20 degrees from John A. McDonald. Interesting. I mean, it kind of expected as you get the ones the longer there, they have a farther connection. Succeeding Joe Clark was Pierre Trudeau again. Then in 1983, Joe Clark gave up the leadership of the Progressive Conservative Party, so he could run for the leadership of the Progressive Conservative Party. What happened? There was the Progressive Party had a leadership review, and he got over 60%, but he did not think that was enough to continue as leader, and he wanted to go through the test. He was having people actively campaigning against him. So he resigned as leader and said he would run to be leader and get reelected to win a leadership convention. Unfortunately for him, that's June lost to Brian Mulroney. Brian Mulroney succeeded as Conservative leader and eventually became Prime Minister. So we looked at Joe Clark, then we look at John Turner. John Turner is interesting, the last Canadian Prime Minister not born in Canada. He was born in England. See there, it says Surrey, England. So let's check his relationship out to John A. McDonald. So he's 25 degrees and 9 branches. And checking for a common ancestor. Again, I didn't think I would necessarily find one, partially because he was born in England. Let's go to the next Prime Minister, who is Brian Mulroney, whose funeral was today. I do already have a biography of Brian Mulroney. This is my biography, it's Genealogy. I have a video on that, so he will not be the one that I do, no matter what. Let's just see. He's in relation to there, so we're at 20 degrees, 6 branches. Let's check to see if we have a common ancestor. So there's none. Okay, so let's go to our next Prime Minister. Succeeding Brian Mulroney. Brian Mulroney came in power in 1984. He had the largest majority in Canadian history. He brought in a lot of things, some popular, some not. His government at the end of his term was very unpopular. He had decided early on that he was only going to have a limited time as Prime Minister. So he served almost just over 9 years. A little less. He resigned in February of leadership, officially succeeded as Prime Minister. Resigned as Conservative leader. January, February was right shortly after Christmas. He sort of decided Christmas before. He led Canada through a lot of things, including 2 constitutional debates after Pierre Trudeau was unable to get all the Canadian provinces, specifically Quebec, to agree on the Canadian Constitution. So Quebec was left out. Brian Mulroney had a goal of getting Quebec included, and he tried 2 attempts. The first was Meech Lake. I have a short video, one of my shorts on the Meech Lake board. Take a look at that. I'll list it after this. After I'm done posting, once the stream posted as a replay, so you can get that all up, probably up in one of the corners here. And brought in the GST, which was the idea was to replace manufacturing tax, which was hidden, and basically anytime the government wanted to raise extra money, it was easy for them to raise it, which would cost consumers more anyways, because it was passed on. So he wanted something that was more fair and very visible. So we brought in what was called goods and services tax. unpopular at the time, but in the long run, it was something that really helped future governments balance their budget. He was succeeded as leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister Campbell, the first Canadian female Prime Minister and the only one to date. And she was also, I believe, the first and only Prime Minister from British Columbia. Now, John Turner, when he became leader of the Liberal Party, he ran and was a member of Parliament from British Columbia, but again, he was not from there. Previously, he had been, I believe, he had terms in Lester Pearson's government and the early part of Pierre Trudeau's, where he was elected, I believe, as an MP in Montreal and also maybe in Toronto. And he wound up being in BC in 1984 when he took over. So let's look for Campbell, see what her relationship is to Prime Minister MacDonald. So she's 17 degrees, 6 branches. So let's go on to our next Prime Minister, Jean Chrétien, who is still alive, doing very well. He became Prime Minister after Campbell. I want to say the weight around her neck of the unpopularity of Ron Mulroney. Government really honestly, from political perspective, ran a bad from Mulroney ran again. I've been elected again. Definitely wouldn't have been as defeated as so Jean Chrétien became Prime Minister in 1993. A little guy from Shawinigan. He's 19 degrees from John A. Macdonald, 6 branches. The guy Shawinigan, really down to earth, blue collar, that was the deal. Served in Parliament for a long time. From the early 1960s, Prime Minister before Pierre Trudeau was. Around the same time, but he'd been elected as a member of Parliament before Pierre Trudeau. So next, after succeeding him, is Paul Martin. Paul Martin's father actually ran against run against Pierre Trudeau when he originally became Prime Minister in 1968. He also, ran against Lester Pearson. He became leader of the party. Not against him as Prime Minister, but when they were running to be leader of the party. So John Macdonald is 20 degrees from Paul Martin, 5 branches. So after Paul Martin is Stephen Harper, who served a long time. He was the first Prime Minister of actually Conservative Party for a long time, because starting in 1942, the Conservative Party actually was called Progressive Conservative Party, and that went through a split in the 1990s under Ron Mulroney. There was a Western-based party called the Reform Party, which started by 1993 was when they elected anybody in the federal election. They had elected people previously by elections. Member of Parliament at that point, I believe. But they had a fair amount of success in 93, and that party by 2002, they realized they needed to get back together with the Progressives, Justice Conservatives, and basically have 2 conservative parties in Canada. They continue that because of the way our elections work, vote splitting, and potentially a perpetual Liberal government following. Stephen Harper was the first leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. That was founded in 2004. 1944, I believe, was when it officially became the Conservative Party. So he was their first prime minister. Again, the Conservative Party of Johnny MacDonald was actually called the Liberal Conservative Party originally, went through a number of names until the 1940s. For most of the early part of the basically from, I think, Johnny MacDonald's second term as prime minister, and afterwards it was known as the Conservative Party. In 1942, they merged actually with a small party, the Progressive Party, and they became the Progressive Conservatives. So he's 17 degrees from Johnny MacDonald. We're going to go with Justin Trudeau, the current Prime Minister of Canada. And I'm not going to say much about him because my mother has always told me if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Or was that was Thumper's mom in Bambi. Either way, he's 19 degrees from John MacDonald. And so, interestingly enough, let's check actually to see how good this is. Let's see what it has for his connection to his father. He's the first Canadian prime minister. His father was also a prime minister. I guess I want to say a positive thing. That is a fact that was interesting about him. So, as far as distance was 1 Greenwich, brackets through connection through a common ancestor. Well, Pierre Trudeau is the common ancestor. Connection through paternal line is, let's see if they're related from his mom's line. Connection through paternal ancestor should be himself, and common descendant would be himself. So you know it's accurate. It's got one. I'm not sure why it says 2 branches. That choose in brackets. So I'm thinking it's just it's 1 degree, 1 branch, 2 people. Okay, that's why that works. You'll see on the connection finder down there, it has a neat thing that their connections were between June 1984 versus 2024, and you'll see they usually accept 2 people that they sort of focus on, 1 or 2 people that they focus on. They have a little list of people listed to there. The rest of them are down here. So I've been going just over an hour now. I want to bid you guys all farewell. If there's any questions anybody has, let's see here. Still none in the form. I'm hoping again that this will pick up and we'll start using it. I'm going to leave that form in there for all you who are watching this on the replay. You'll get a chance to see it. So I'm going to do what I always do at this time, though, is to give you all one last chance to ask your question in the chat. So it's time for
Last Call! Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar. Oh.
Okay, so last call. It's a chance for you. If you have a question, post it in the comments. If not, I'm going to head out. I've been going at this just an hour and 4 minutes, almost 5, and I'm ready to go. Okay, great. Well, until next time, I want you to remind you to keep searching for your ancestors, and you have yourself a great day. And I might do another live stream midweek this week, but again, I'll try to do this one in the next Saturday at the same time. I'll be putting it up shortly after this one. So you have yourself a great day. And I want to say farewell.
Farewell, farewell, my friend.